Orbonom guys, Commander, and welcome to another review of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Now, we have done this once before already, but we've done it solo. Now, if you watch the solo review that I did, you will know that I mentioned that I was going to get together with Unit 1 and Orbonom, otherwise known as RetroGeek, and we're going to collab and do a review together. Now, we went to see it, all three of us together, went to see it on the day it came out, and we wanted to put together our thoughts. Now, it took longer than expected because we had to do delays after delays, you know, whatever. It took a lot of time. However, we're finally doing it now, and it's about 50 minutes long. It's about an hour long. We were recording it for an hour and 20 minutes, so I think I've done quite well in shrinking this audio down to what we've, got. And we were playing Halo Reach in the background, but you will see Battlefront 2 gameplay on the front. So if there's a couple of things as far as gameplay is concerned that doesn't really make sense. There's not an awful lot, because I have listened through the audio more or less, and there isn't anything major that I can see. If there's a little reference to Halo Reach, which is what the game we were playing, that is the reason why. So the gameplay doesn't match the audio. However, I do just want to say before you watch this video, spoiler alert, this video is going to contain spoilers all the way through, start to finish. It's just going to contain spoilers all the way through. So yeah, that's something we noticed halfway through the recording. We were thinking, oh no, we should have put spoilers, but I said I'd do it at the start, so there we go. So I'm sorry this video has taken so long to get up. It's because I've been sitting on this video and trying to get Unit 1 and RetroGeek. It's more Unit 1's issue because he's a nuisance, but we've been sitting on this video for quite a while, and I've been waiting to edit it, and this is the start of it, so I hope you enjoy.
So yeah, we saw Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker.
We did. First thoughts, gentlemen.
Yeah, first thoughts. Why don't you go first,
You go
Unit
first,
1?
Unit.
I think,
Okay, I was thinking what on earth, mostly.
Yeah.
The pace was a little ridiculous. And I wasn't that impressed, if I'm honest.
No?
I thought it felt very rapidly edited together, a bit like the people who'd done it were minorly panicking.
Okay.
And with any luck, that's the last Star Wars film we have in a while.
Well, for another 3 years.
Well, yeah, because it's more just TV series now, isn't it?
Because now we're like, oh, we should bring out an Old Republic film or whatever they're working on, I think, with the, what was it, the Game of Thrones writers are doing it?
Wow, that
Or
was
they
the original
were
plan.
doing
No,
it.
they've been fired.
They were doing it, and then they got fired.
Yeah, I'm just so impressed right now. It's going so well. I mean, what I thought of the opening moments is what on earth.
Yeah.
It felt like it was going at 4,000 miles an hour. It had no proper what I could feel consistency to it. There was no substance. It was all action sequence after chase sequence after action. It felt a little panicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The pacing has definitely had an issue with it.
Yes.
As a whole, what I've said, a lot of people have asked me, because we went to go see it the day it came out. I've had a lot of people say to me, "Oh, what do you think of the movie? Is it any good?" But I've always said that I think it's a good movie, but the things that are wrong with it are so blatantly obvious and so in your face that that's what's wrong with it that you can't ignore that.
I
pacing
don't
especially.
agree.
No,
but carry on. We will get onto this later.
The pacing especially is a major issue, and I think anybody who's seen it or is going to see it will agree that the pacing is something that it's something that's going to be there's a major problem with it. The decision to go and defeat the Emperor and to go and attack the Emperor on Exegol, that was done instantly. There was no forethought or no contemplation of whether we should actually do it or not. It was just oh, the Emperor's alive, let's go and attack him, sort of thing. It's a bit rushed, you know. And at the end as well as with the other time that I noticed it, the attack on all those Star Destroyers, yes, they had a massive fleet of Resistance fighters, but there were literally thousands of Star Destroyers there. How the hell did they destroy it in just a few hours?
I think we should have said spoilers at the beginning of this.
Oh, yes. Spoiler alert is completely in effect for this.
Yeah,
we'll
I
just
did. That'd be at the start. I haven't done it yet, but I will.
Just slap it in the title. Just slap it in the thumbnail. Slap it everywhere. Not clickbait. Not gone sexual, prank gone wrong in the Rise of Skywalker viewing.
Like, yeah, fair enough. We are going to spoil it here, but anyway, fair enough. Orbonom, what was your thoughts?
That is my entire reaction to this film. In all honesty, it was probably the single most frustrating film I've ever watched, because there was so much good stuff, so much missed potential.
Yeah,
there was so many great ideas, like the Emperor coming back, brilliant. Okay, yes, it kind of undoes
like
Return of the Jedi, but do you know what? I love the Emperor so much, I really don't.
I think he should have stayed dead personally, because in my opinion, we get to what I like to call Michael Bay territory, and Orbonon, you will know what I mean by that.
Oh, yeah, God. I know what you mean by that as well.
The fact that if a character is dead, they should stay dead. They should not come back alive. They should just stay true to what they are.
At least he didn't bring Darth Vader back. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, there's a lot of leaks going around that said that Hayden Christensen's coming back as Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader or whatnot. And I thought, oh please God, I'd rather have the Emperor come back than Darth Vader come back. I
can get behind that. Yeah. Okay, so
the film had a lot of good. There was a lot of good stuff, and then there was just so much more stuff that I just didn't like. I either didn't like it, was indifferent to it, or just outright hated it. The whole thing with Chewbacca, what?
Oh, that was ridiculous.
What was the point in the fake out? If you're going to kill off a character, have the balls to actually do it. Like, come on.
Well, I also think that what didn't add to it was that they didn't leave it long enough to show that he had survived.
Yeah, it was like 2 minutes, and then all of a sudden,
he died, and then 2 minutes later, we're like, oh no, we've got a prisoner, and it turns out
but he's not dead.
Leave it till halfway. Leave it till near the end of the film.
Gentlemen,
have him taken apart. Command Destroy or something.
So we've done our first impressions. Let's move on to the positives.
What positives?
Yeah, I don't have anything to add in here. Why did you write that down in our checklist?
I don't know. Because there were some things that I thought were legitimately good about this film.
Personally, I tell you something that I did like in this movie, and it's the Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, and Ian McDiarmid. I thought were probably some of the best things.
I won't lie to you. I think they are the 3 best actors in this trilogy.
Yes,
I would have said the entire saga, but even McGregor exists.
Like Ian McDiarmid, he goes without saying. He is an ace and a legend, regardless of who, what, or where you are. Any iteration of the Emperor he has to play in a movie, because it just goes without saying. Adam Driver is so whatever anybody says about Kylo Ren and how he's a whiny brat and whatnot, he has played that role really well.
I do not question the validity and the reasonableness of the acting, because the actors are all very good at their jobs.
The acting is so much better in these films than the prequels. Without
doubt. Yeah, absolutely.
We cannot be too harsh on the prequels, though, because it wasn't really the acting which was causing them problems. It was more the directing.
Which affected the acting, but
but the thing is if I know we're not here to bash the prequels, we're here to review a movie.
Yes,
but
quite
the actors that if it was for the fact that it was the actors and not the directors, then some of the good actors and the good voice actors like Samuel L. Jackson and what's his name? He plays Qui-Gon.
Liam Neeson.
His name.
Mind you, Ewan McGregor wasn't bad.
Would actually act very well if it wasn't for the fact that the actors was the issue. It's not. It was
the thing about the prequels is, although the directing and acting was shit, at least we got some good memes out of it. At least we got to do it. At least
I know. That's all I could.
The thing is, I'm in the minority here because I prefer the prequels over these films. But that's because I'm more lore focused. I'm much more into the having a fully fleshed out galaxy with consistency and knowing what's going on at every turn. I'm much more into that than most people are. which I think is a shame,
Yeah.
really. But
The thing is, Star Wars has got such a big mythos that yes, you have to watch the prequels in order to like get an ideal understanding on it, but they're just so.
I mean,
hard
you don't
to
even need to
watch.
watch the prequels to understand it. You can watch the original trilogy just fine and know what's going on because they tell you in the crawls and
And
they
in all
tell you in like
fairness-
exposition.
yeah,
you know?
absolutely. But like,
And in all fairness, a lot of the lore. It was repeated. A lot of the lore from the prequels, it was repeated in the Clone Wars. So ideally, you don't even really need to.
no,
watch the
true,
prequels,
but
'cause
like,
a lot of the lore is already there.
like the Clone Wars could not have been a thing without the prequels to be the baseline for that.
This is a point, but I've said this point, and I've made this point on social media before, like Discord and Instagram and that. Just because something wouldn't happen if that thing does exist, doesn't make
True.
it good.
But I fear I
somebody was
fear we are
saying-
moving off topic, gentlemen.
We're talking too much about
Yes, I
the
agree.
shitty prequel trilogy rather than this single shitty film.
I disagree.
Yes.
The last film was pretty bad as well.
Oh yes,
I don't know, I like
The Last
that
Jedi. I will say this now. I did actually rewatch that recently, twice actually.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
My first rewatch, I actually enjoyed myself. Well, no, I that's a lie. I didn't. I thoroughly disliked the film. Remembering now, I didn't like it at all. But when I rewatched it a second time, it wasn't that bad. Like it's bad, but it's not as bad as most people say it is.
There's a lot of it's not as bad as people say it is. Like a lot of people are making out this the worst thing that's ever been created.
But I would just
and
like to
it's
say for the
not.
record, Commander,
It's
that doesn't
just-
make it the best Star Wars film since The Empire Strikes Back.
Y-
You were wrong about it
No,
then. You're
I
wrong
have
about
cut-
it now.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I am. I'm completely wrong about it. There are the original trilogy just out superiors all of it in every which way. But anyway,
But as I have stated, I'm not a fan of these films. But yeah, I can completely get behind that. The best part of these films has been the acting and the superb quality of the visual aesthetics team and
You're forgetting
the
about the
design
John
team.
Williams
Yes.
score.
yeah, John Williams' score is hands down every single time nails it.
Yes.
Like,
Do you reckon every time he
That's
sits
the
down
one
to
thing,
like
you know-
compose the scores of these films, he has to like watch the films beforehand, like when they're edited, and he just sees it and he's like,
I
"Oh,
don't even think he
oh
needs
for
to
Christ's
try.
sake, I've got to make this sound good at the very least." Oh God.
well, no, because he doesn't even need to try. Because anything he produces, fans just love anyway. So it don't really. make any
I
difference.
will admit that like every aesthetic part of these films is always very pleasing.
The practical
Everyone
effects in the Rise of Skywalker especially were probably one of the best things about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because this is my industry and I can somewhat speak from a bit of understanding of it because this is where I'm being trained in. This is what I'm going to be doing in life. Like, it's quite impressive what they've managed to achieve.
Especially with Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher, literally, for how little they had, was amazing.
But you can tell
Like-
that it's so obviously like green screened, and that she's
You can
clearly been
tell
edited
it,
in.
but I'll tell you
To the
what.
point where it's,
I'll
I
tell you
legitimately
what,
think it's distracting.
in-
They should have just not had her in the film,
It-
if I'm honest.
Yes, I completely
Yeah,
agree
I do.
with that.
I do agree, but I think in, let's say, 20 years' time, when children watch these movies, or people our age watch these movies, who didn't know that as she was, like, as this movie was being made, she wasn't, like, alive, I don't think people are going to notice it. I think just because we know that she wasn't alive while making this movie, we are actually out there looking for flaws in that.
Well, I went into this film completely forgetting that she had died, which sounds horrible, but I just went and forgot that she died. And then as soon as she
Yeah.
came on screen, I'm like, oh yeah, she's dead. And I could tell every time. It
Yeah.
was just so distracting.
I mean, luckily she went in there for like huge amounts, so she couldn't be in it for huge amounts. They didn't have a lot
No.
of footage, but
No,
I don't know. I think it was good that what they did with what they had, and especially put new clothes on her as
Yeah.
well.
we will give the special effects department and the editing department their due praise and the actors for doing their job. Now we will turn to the negatives.
Actually,
The eye goes.
there is one more positive
Mhm.
that I would like to talk about.
Okay.
An actor that I legitimately forgot was actually really good in this film. Can we all agree that Anthony Daniels as C-3PO was actually one of the best things about this film? Surprisingly,
I do agree. The thing is like this is something that I'm a bit like I don't know whether I like or not. Is the C-3PO forgetting his memory? Like, I mean, Anthony Daniels is a great actor. You know, his portrayal of C-3PO and his cluelessness, like the acting that C-3PO's got, like cluelessness about him, is quite funny. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm not entirely sure. Like, I thought that when his memory was going to be wiped, it would get really annoying because he was going to like say, "Oh, who are you people? I don't know any of you. I'm not even going to cooperate with you because I don't know who you are." But it wasn't so forced, that
it was
element of
funny.
it.
Like it's
Yes,
probably
they
the
could've-
best bit of comedy that these films have done. When all they try to do really is be funny and fail.
Yeah, I can agree with that, but I will point out here that the whole like continuously doing that with characters did get infuriating after a while and ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, we will talk about the negatives, and I'm going to link it to C-3PO, okay? So, C-3PO loses his memory in this film.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And it gets undone about 10, 20 minutes later.
Okay, yeah,
Much
I'm
in the same way
with
that
you there.
Chewbacca was supposedly killed off and then he comes back.
And Rey at the end.
Exactly. The biggest problem with this film is that there is no sacrifice.
No,
The only sacrifice is that Kylo Ren dies, but
so does Leia.
He's the villain. He's the villain. So
I tell you what. I tell you how I think that bit should have ended. Is that, and especially it irritates me because the film is called The Rise of Skywalker. I would have preferred it as that instead of Kylo sacrificed himself to save Rey. I would have preferred it if Rey had died, Kylo had accepted that Rey had died, got into Luke's X-Wing, fought off the Imperial Star Destroyers, and then joined the Rebellion. And then, I know he's still technically a Solo, but that feeds into the more of the Rise of Skywalker than what it actually
I'll tell you what it is.
Imagine if it ended with him on the twin sun, on Tatooine seeing the twin suns. I think that would have been better.
Yeah, but that would have been
tell you
better.
what it is. It's
Because that's
it's
a direct
a
link.
lack of consequence in these films.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. They end the same way that Return of the Jedi ended. The Empire is defeated again. So what was the point? Why not just have a new villain?
Like,
yeah. I also think that, like, the idea that, like, Rey turns around and says, "Oh no, I'm Rey Skywalker." You're not. You're Rey Palpatine. You're a Palpatine.
Well,
You can't
she's
just
Rey
turn around and
Skywalker in
say
name
that...
only. It's not biological. It's like
No, but like shit. The movie goes on about saying like, "Oh, respect your heritage and like accept who you are," but it doesn't.
No,
do
it
that.
doesn't. And for the main part, this whole trilogy, I think, has just been one continuous disaster after another.
It's because they didn't have a plan of what they were going to do. J.J. Abrams made this first film as a homage, which you know is fine. The Force Awakens was a decent film.
It was a copy.
It was
nothing but a shrill, honest copy. It was
a copy. It was a homage, but it did enough different in it. You know, it varied it enough.
Yeah.
You know, no one. Do you really think that Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, and all the guys at Disney just went, "Oh, we're just gonna remake A New Hope. We're gonna. No one will ever know."
Kathleen Kennedy, I wouldn't put it past her.
Do you people really think that she went into that expecting that people wouldn't notice? Of course, it was intentional.
Like it was stupid. They should never have gone there. What they should have gone with instead is a New Republic story about the New Republic and about what happens afterwards. We should have got a story that was all about like, okay, once the big empire falls, how do you then like consolidate from that? And we should have had adventures with the New Republic.
Here's the thing, though, they couldn't. They couldn't do that. They could, but do you remember what the biggest complaint that people had about the prequels? Politics, and that it did too much different from the original trilogy. It didn't feel like Star Wars. Now, I would argue that it feels like Star Wars, but
nobody is satisfied in this community. This is something that really irritates me about the Star Wars community at the moment, is that we get The Force Awakens, which is a total rehash of A New Hope. Regardless of what anybody says, it's pretty much word for word, story-wise, exactly the same as A New Hope.
No one can deny this fact.
And then they go. So everybody's moaning about it being a rehash of of A New Hope. Then they get the Last Jedi, which is completely different. There's no relevance to any of the previous.
The Last Jedi does some things.
No, it does something similar. The thing is that it was something different, but it was taken off at a right angle to serve a personal political venture. The Last Jedi was just bad. It was Rian Johnson saying, hey, this is my chance to make a mark on the world. And he screwed it up. And he did so much damage. I reckon if J.J. Abrams had been able to finish his trilogy that he had in mind, then I would not be so annoyed because there would be consistency with one director. The problem is that J.J. Abrams in this last film had to tie up a load of plot threads from what was literally a disaster of a film in the Last Jedi. Like, he was in a near impossible position with this film. And I'm not a fan of J.J. Abrams because as far as I'm concerned, he's gone after two of franchises that I really care about now.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yes, he did.
As well, didn't he?
Right, so I would just like to state two things. First of all, his name is J.J. Abrams.
Yes.
Second of all, I can't even remember what you were complaining about now because I was just laughing the whole time.
J.J. Abrams, whatever. I don't care.
The lack of the Rian Johnson screwing up The Last Jedi.
Consistency.
Here's the thing, though. Okay, so the original trilogy, it had 3 different directors. There was George Lucas for A New Hope. I can't remember off the top.
Irvin Kershner.
That's right, Irvin
Kershner is.
And then
Empire.
who did Episode 6? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think Irvin Kershner did it, but I think it was still co-directed.
Maybe, because I remember Steven Spielberg was originally going to direct it. The thing is, though, it wasn't
Spielberg doing a Star Wars film would be awesome.
Here's the thing, though: it's not the same.
Yeah,
it's not different directors being the issue. You know, it's the fact that they gave Rian Johnson free reins to write The Last Jedi. And J.J. Abrams was an executive producer on that film as well, so he could have easily stepped in at any point and gone, hang on a minute, Ryan, can you not do that? Can you this is what I want to do this is what needs to happen in the next film and what I have in mind. Can you do that? Because he is allowed to do that. He's the executive producer. He can easily say,
why didn't he
force him to do that? Exactly. So in all fairness, J.J. Abrams kind of brought it upon himself when he did it. And I guess he thought, hang on a minute, Colin Trevorrow's directing episode 9. Oh, I don't have to worry about it. And then Colin gets fired, and then J.J. Abrams gets brought back. So it's like, oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, I'm regretting not stepping in now. Shit. I'll lay the blame on Ryan, I guess, because
the problem is okay. So let's move on from directing issues. Although I do believe that's where the majority of this film's problems start.
Yes,
I am generally just not thrilled by the story. I can't actually look back at this film and say, yes, this is a Star Wars film. I cannot do that in my mind. Like, I can't. Like, when I look back on this film now, I mean, you've gone to see it for a second time now, but when I look back at it, I can't say, yes, this is part of this trilogy that I've loved. Like, I physically can't do it.
You love it? I thought you said you hated the sequel trilogy.
No, part of this universe that I care about. Yeah, you get what I mean.
Yes.
I physically cannot do that, and it's a real shame. And
it's like I've always said, if they just had one writer for all 3 of these films, and they proofread it, and they said, yes, this is consistent across all 3 films, all of this makes sense.
I think that's where the books always outdo the films, because Timothy
or the TV shows
and the TV shows. So when we've had the TV shows, it's been It's been Dave Filoni,
and more recently, Jon Favreau has been doing
but Dave Filoni's doing it with Jon Favreau. The two are working together, so it's And we're also getting
Yeah.
season 2 of Mandalorian, by the way,
Yeah.
which is really good.
I'm not a massive fan of Mandalorian, but that's
I-
another point.
I
That's
haven't
another-
seen it yet, so
another
I
discussion.
cannot sit in judgment.
1, 2, 3 movies. I'm just
It's okay.
saying. It's illegal,
Yeah.
but if they're not going to get
It's-
over to the UK for another 6 months, might as well.
Yeah, I
However long
know.
it is.
It's not bad. It's just like there's
Anyway,
certain elements that I just
gentlemen, we're
find
off
Rise of
topic
Skywalker,
again.
yes.
Rise of Skywalker.
Yes.
I cannot. I'm struggling saying that this is part of the franchise because it just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
I know that you two both will claim that lore and consistency don't matter, and I can completely understand that mindset, but I think you can either have all of one or none of the other. Like, you can't have rules made in the universe then just to violate those rules. Like, you either have a universe where, it's all plot devices, you can do whatever you want with it, or you can't and you follow your own rules.
The thing
but
is,
you
though,
say
people
that, though,
don't,
is like-
a casual mainstream audience.
No,
won't read
I
the
know,
books. They
I
won't
know
read
that.
all the comics because there was this whole trilogy of books that came up before The Force Awakens, and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, you mean I've got to read in order to understand what's going on? Fuck that! I just want to be entertained by this film. For fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Star Wars, sets. I don't know. I kind of want rules and I want them to be followed.
Yeah, but you can't. The thing is, though, is you say that
If you introduce
say that
a
you enjoy
rule
the
in a
prequel
film, like
trilogy.
you say, oh yes, the Millennium Falcon can light speed jump as many times as it wants, people are just going to accept that. They're going to be like, yeah, okay, it's Star Wars movie.
I
It's not been
know.
introduced before,
I
but,
know
neither
that.
were midichlorians.
And also, I was having a discussion with a debate with somebody on Discord about the hyperspace ram and the Last Jedi, and they were saying how that doesn't make sense, but it's science fiction. It doesn't.
Wasn't
have
that
to make
literally
sense.
something they did in the expanded universe all the time when that was still
No, it wasn't. Hyperspace rams were never a thing in the expanded universe. You could ram another ship with your own ship, but not hyperspace rams.
Yeah, but a lot of people, he was saying to me how it doesn't make sense. How if they knew this technology, why didn't they use it before? But it's science fiction. It doesn't have to have.
Don't they
logic
literally
to
say
it.
in this film that it's incredibly dangerous to do and can't and sometimes doesn't even work?
I think it's mentioned in the book. I think.
We're not talking about that film at the moment.
No,
but
we're not.
No, but the same goes for this film. People, a lot of, not necessarily the storyline, but a lot of the mechanics behind the story. I didn't agree with the fact that the TIE fighters had hyperdrives built into them, but it's science fiction. It doesn't have to make sense.
Well, I mean,
yes,
that irritates
but you
me,
can
but I just
constantly
accept it
point to
because
that
it's
and
science
just
fiction.
justify anything, and it makes for bankrupt and unintelligent story making. Because if you want to make honest, really good stories, then the way you do it is you make them clever, you make them well thought out with plot lines that are consistent and make sense.
Yeah, but Star
I'm
Wars
gonna have to agree with you on that because science fiction may not have to make sense, but
if you're just MacGuffining your way through, it makes for bankrupt story writing.
Yes.
It makes for weak stories that are limited and small. I will always point to Timothy Zahn as one of the greatest sci-fi authors ever, in my opinion.
Yes.
Because the way he writes and the way he does stuff is he reads and he understands his source material. He understands it very well and then works with it. He allows for unmutable rules and for those rules to exist, and therefore the stories can be clever and interesting.
I'm gonna have to bring up the prequel set because you keep saying, "Oh, it's science fiction; it doesn't have to make sense." But in the original trilogy, the Force makes total sense. We can understand what the characters are talking about when they explain the Force.
Yeah.
And then the prequels come along. I hate to bring them up again, but then they talk about the midichlorians and how it's all scientific.
Explaining the magic was a bad choice. I'm not going to disagree with you there.
Yeah, and it's hang on a minute, you've never established that before. That contradicts with everything that was said before. That the rule was that the Force was fucking magic. That there was no scientific explanation behind it. It's the whole living. Do you know what I mean?
This is what I mean about, like, it's science fiction. It doesn't have to be, like... It's annoying that is where it is, but it doesn't have to be that. Because everybody's now accepting the midichlorians are part of Star Wars. Even though it generally just doesn't make sense. Like, somehow the Force is passed on through bloodline, and not everybody has the Force. You know, even though that then they turn around and say that everybody has an element of the Force in them, but only certain people.
I do think explaining the magic was a mistake.
To it.
Don't get me wrong. And I don't like the Phantom Menace as a film, particularly. It's quite slow, but at least it's artistically consistent. Like, you can make it work in the universe. These films, not so much. Like,
no, but then, like, there are pros and cons with everybody. There's every Star Wars film, except for the first one, has had some kind of backlash on it. You know, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, the prequels, obviously, but have all had some form of backlash when they came out.
Okay, fine.
But now people just accept
what I mean is, I don't think these films will settle into the universe. I don't think that they can really be considered what you would call canon. I don't think that works for them. I think that they are so, like, not well done that people will struggle to say, yes, that happened in the universe. Like, I can look back on some of the worst parts of Star Wars and say, those things still happened in that universe. I am happy to look back and accept that. But I cannot look back at these films and say that.
I think what they're going to have to do is they're now going to... Because you know how the prequel trilogy was kind of saved with the Clone Wars? I think they're going to have to just make some kind of cartoon that fits in the timeline. And
a good cartoon. Not anything like Star Wars Resistance, which
Star Wars Resistance
is
is terrible.
Anyway.
They need to make some kind of cartoon that is actually good, well made, and similar to the Clone Wars. That makes people say, okay, you know what, this actually kind of makes the sequel.
No, I don't think they'll be able to do that because it's broken too many of the rules and it's made the property intellectually bankrupt. I don't think it can. I am honestly just glad this is over.
For another 3 years, anyway.
I am happy for there to be, like, films like Rogue One, which I actually think is a decent and very well done addition to the franchise. Some of the characters were a bit bland in Rogue One, but I am honestly happy with it.
And they're all along, and now they're just like, oh, we can fix that. Let's make a TV series about Cassian Andor and whatever the droid was.
Yeah, that's stupid. That's really dumb.
Like,
but yeah,
don't get me wrong. Rogue One had some of the same plot problems as well, but at least it was like a relatively interesting story. And also,
well, yeah, but we knew what the story was going to be. It's only interesting because it's so predictable. That's what bored me about it. Like, we knew what was going to happen, you know.
But
I think half the characters were so bland that the reason why is because we knew they weren't going
Rogue
to
One
survive.
had such a good ending that it distracted people from the fact that it was a decent film. You know what I mean? Like a meh film. Because a good ending can make you forget how...
I agree, it was a meh film, but we had an actual decent battle in it, and I'm quite happy.
Speaking of battles...
Oh my gosh,
can we talk about the number of lightsaber fights in this one?
Okay.
Air they
yeah,
right.
It's a bit.
Now, this is where I would like to go on a bit of a rant, where I am going to point out the inconsistencies with lightsaber combat in this film. Lightsaber combat is supposed to be like a form of art.
Hold on, I'm just going to go and grab my popcorn for this one.
Yeah. It's supposed to be
There's going to be a full movie just in and of itself.
It's supposed to be
right. I've got my bucket. Let's talk here.
Yeah. Okay. So it's supposed to be a form of art. It's supposed to be well executed, and it's supposed to be very precise and clean. Like, so you have like all in Legends, you have all the different lightsaber styles and how they're supposed to work. Putting those aside, because you can't put that into the films, but like there is a precision and art to it. Like you can see that in like the Duel of Fates, or there is that like degree of, it's almost like samurai combat in Japan, how it was like an art form. Okay, the lightsaber work and the way that that's been choreographed looks like medieval people hacking at each other, like with no grace, no skill. It was just, I'm going to hit you with big sword until you are dead.
But I tell you what, though, right? And the lightsaber fights, this is the one thing I like about the prequel trilogy. The lightsaber fights are insane, regardless of what anybody says. They're really good. I have some problems with some of them. They're a bit, like, too choreographed, but I'll put that aside. But as far as the storyline is concerned, the Jedi, let's say Obi-Wan, Anakin, Count Dooku, General Grievous, whoever, they've been training for what, like 15, 20 years, maybe even more, as in the form of lightsaber combat. Rey has only been training for like a year.
Less than that when she has her first lightsaber fight. It's been like 3 days.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's like the second time she's ever held a lightsaber.
You could argue that she had the staff and that she therefore was training.
Yeah.
Okay, but
it's similar to, it's more similar to like a double-bladed lightsaber. If she had a double-bladed one, I could understand. It would make sense.
But blade work is very different to quarterstaff. Like, exceptionally different in the way it works and the way you use it. I do agree double-bladed would have made more sense. But I don't know. The whole way they did it in these films was just terrible. Like, there was no grace or elegance to it at all. Like, there was...
Yeah, but how can there be grace and elegance as something when you've not had much training in it? Like, I can understand what.
Oh,
like,
fine. Okay. Well, we're drifting into a subject of she's a Mary Sue and she shouldn't be able to use a lightsaber.
Yeah, well, that is just complete.
This is a thing I subscribe to, but anyway.
Anyway.
But I think that let's say for in this film that she's been being trained on how to use a lightsaber and she's proficient in it.
Yes.
Like, even so, like it just looks like she's giving into the dark side with the way she's using a lightsaber.
Well, she is Palpatine's granddaughter, so it does make sense.
Yeah. It's also in the
but I think they should have like explicitly said that, or like given some visual.
Yeah, it's like, or had Leia said something like, "Don't go, let go of your anger," or something like that. We should have had a line like that, that's saying, "Yet the only reason she's so powerful is." I would actually have accepted that more. The reason she's powerful is because it's not only the fact that she's Palpatine's granddaughter, it's also that she's giving into the dark side and it's making her OP.
Yeah.
Well, but Luke said that in The Last Jedi. When they were doing that Force Cave business, he said she went straight to the dark.
Yeah, but then it was never resolved.
There's a touch of like, there's a lot of briefness in this trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, you mentioned something, then just get rid of it. Like, another issue that I have with this movie is the idea of, like, the Finn being a stormtrooper.
Oh, that was so...
That was just abandoned.
No, like, the premise of that was not good. Like, Finn should not have been a stormtrooper. What would have been interesting if he'd been, like, an intelligence officer. Someone like Agent Callus from Rebels. Someone who's, like, he's actually in a position where he can help his fellows, and he's in a position which actually helps the Resistance, not the stupid idea that, oh yeah, I used to clean the latrines on the Starkiller base. Like, that's terrible. Like, that makes
but the thing is, like, what irritates me about that story, like most people completely forgot about that, but they brought it back up, but only briefly, with that group of rebels on Endor. As if to say, oh yeah, we remember it. Remember that Finn's a stormtrooper, but we're not going to elaborate on it. Not at all. We're not. We're just going to forget about it as soon as we brought it back up. Like, if you're not going to put anything into that storyline, don't mention it.
I completely agree. I also just think it was... Finn as a character strikes me as quite weak anyway. So he doesn't strike me as particularly interesting.
No.
Like he honestly just seems to spend his time just being, I don't know, the butt of a load of jokes. He doesn't do a lot. I was just like, yeah,
No.
he's not a strong character in my opinion.
But it's the same with Poe Dameron. Like, they're meant to be the trio.
You really
of,
don't
like-
care about them though. Like, I couldn't find it in my heart to care. That's when we had that bit from C-3PO when C-3PO was like, I'm saying goodbye to my friends. Yeah, I really don't care.
Here's the thing, because
No.
I like these characters individual people. I like Rey, I like Finn, I like Poe. But
Yeah.
can we just talk about the fact that before this film, they have not interacted as a trio
No,
ever?
Absolutely.
No.
And all
There's
of
no
the
setup
and
at
the
all.
fact
what
that
I
they're
find
the
is
best
just,
of friends.
Like, on...
It's the same issue with
Yeah,
the prequels, where
but,
Anakin
like,
and
the
Obi-Wan are supposed to be
marketing-
the best of friends, but we don't see them doing that. They just seem to argue a lot.
Yeah, I know. That's my issue with Revenge of the Sith. Like, they go on all this stuff about, like, Kate and Amoy.
Oh, don't you remember, Anakin, when we did this thing? Do you remember when we went to the
I don't know.
nightclub
You can
at
get a
Coruscant?
sense of comradeship
Fell into
from
the
them.
nest of Gundams.
You can
and
get
stuff
a
like that.
sense of comradeship from them. I feel like you do get that sense, but that's more of an Attack of the Clones problem than it is a Revenge of the Sith one.
Yeah.
But
But no, like, the marketing for The Rise of Skywalker and the sequel trilogy just in and of itself acts like Rey, Finn, and Poe are the new, like...
they
the new
had been
trio,
set.
like,
They were
Anakin,
meant to
Obi-Wan,
be,
and
but this
Padme.
was just never acted upon. And Poe
No,
is just not
Poe
like
didn't even meet Rey until the end of The Last Jedi.
no.
yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know. We haven't got to know Poe Dameron that well. Like, we get a
No.
bit of exposition on his past, but not
I'm a
enough.
really good pilot, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like trying to be like a Han Solo
There,
sort of
there
character.
was a character in Legends, which I would have liked to see. I can't remember his name. But he was really cool, and he was one of the fighter pilots. And having him like as a
Yeah.
having him like take that main role, because the character I mean was from the X-Wing novels, and he became a Jedi in the end. He was awesome. So fighter pilots can make really good characters, but just Poe just just hasn't had that moment. And like the idea that he's like constantly getting shot down as well by people over the films, like for instance, you know, when he does that, like, okay, I'm going to drift off topic here for a moment, but in the last Jedi, when he goes and does that attack and takes out the dreadnought, what went on there was he was sent out to obviously do this plan that Leia had come up with. And when they're in the position to do it, Leia suddenly reconsiders and says, no, we're not going to do that plan anymore. And he's like, but you set up the plan. I've come out here where I've risked my life. I've taken out the turrets. Are we not going to do the plan? And she's like, no, we're not doing the plan. So he makes a logical tactical decision to say, well, what on earth? So he goes through and he does the plan, takes out a huge threat, comes back and gets demoted for taking the most logical of decisions. And then with Admiral Holdo doesn't tell him what they're doing, and it causes him to have a mutiny is caused because Admiral Holdo does not confide in what is her second officer what on earth is going on. And she deliberately acts like, how do you say it, provocative towards him? When he's just like, no, I just want to know the plan. I want to get in. I want to see what I can do. I want to do my job. But she's just like, well, no, you're some stupid flyboy who gets loads of people killed. So I'm not like, there's no, it just didn't feel, how do you say, legitimate. It felt
cheap.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what we talk lightsaber fights and how just abundant they
sorry,
are
I
and
went
don't
off topic
have
there.
any effect at all. This lightsaber fight is meant to be this really nice, intense moment where it's like, oh yeah, look at the action. Even in the last, I was invested more in the lightsaber fight in the Last Jedi between Kylo Ren and Luke, where there was no contact at all.
No blades drawn across. Yeah.
No, 'cause that was a really good fight, actually, in my opinion. I really liked that fight, even though there wasn't.
It was because it was too frequent. The frequency of it is what ruined
We got like
it.
2 in the span of about 10, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We got 2, but also they never. as I said earlier, it felt like they were just hacking at each other. There was no choreography, no skill on display. It just was like, oh, we're just going to hack at you.
Yeah. Again,
Also-
I think that's understandable because of the amount of training they've had. But anyway.
Oh,
that's-
no, but
yeah.
like Kylo
Oh,
should
right.
be this more
It
elegant
doesn't-
swordsman because he's been fully trained, but he's just hacking as well.
Maybe he's
Like,
trying
the
not to get his
choreo-
fingers cut off by the three-bladed lightsaber.
The choreography was terrible. Like, just as a rule, it wasn't good. But also, okay, I'm going to bring attention now to the Death Star.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm fed up of this by this point. I mentioned this.
They
in the
have
actual
Death Star
review,
cannons,
the solo
guys.
review that I did.
These Star Destroyers have
I'm sick
power
of it
cannons
by
that
this
are the
point.
same amount of
I've had
power as the
enough.
Death Star. Okay.
They did it twice. They did it twice in the original trilogy. That was dumb in of itself. In Return of the Jedi, they said, "Oh, they destroyed the first Death Star. Let's make another one." You know, that was dumb. And then they've just
What's
done it
more
twice
is
in the sequel trilogy.
the whole fact that they like the cannons on these ships are smaller than the cannons on the the big ships in the previous film. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Also, like, okay,
I get that technology can advance in like 30 years.
not that fast. Like,
But-
the way
No.
that the Death Star was set up and the way that we had it done, we had it like in Rogue One. They've been going around and they had to gather all the crystals in the known universe to be able to do this plan, to build this ultimate super weapon. So when
But it's like they had to, like, because Starkiller Base was made from Ilum, is the Ilum planet. So unless they sort of like every single kyber crystal
Yeah.
they found on that planet while they were making Starkiller Base, they just transported over to the Emperor in secret. so
yeah,
they could
it's
build
like
this
we
fleet.
would
Like,
need so many. It's so stupid. Like, this is anyway. I wasn't actually going after the Death Star weapons in this. I was more going after the Death Star duel, where Leia dies. From what I can see, for no reason. Because right, so we have.
I get you've got to kill her off, but
Fine, but like, so she interrupts the duel between Rey and Kylo, and
yeah.
this causes Kylo to lose concentration for a moment, and Rey stabs him. Like,
Yes.
it's a lethal blow. Now, putting aside the fact that that's not how Force heal works, why
Yeah,
would
because
she
if-
heal
hang on a minute.
him?
If-
Why?
if Rey could do that to Kylo Ren, why didn't Obi-Wan do that in The Phantom Menace when Qui-Gon got it to the gut?
Because he wasn't strong enough with the Force. He was
And
only a
Rey
Padawan.
is,
Well, but there's no such thing as Padawans in what I mean is
but Rey's only like had this power for like a
secret
year, and
Rey is very powerful for a Padawan. Like, actually, if she was a Padawan, I'd consider her like a danger to the Jedi Order, and
Yeah.
I'd have her off Coruscant on some backwater world where all she could do is move rocks and not kill millions of people.
Yeah. The idea of like, and also we're talking like 70 years difference here between the Phantom Menace and the Rise of Skywalker, and how like, and also we've known from different Star Wars media that different people can be different, like can be force sensitive with different powers and stronger with different areas of the force. The idea that she can have Force mind trick and the Force Awakens completely straight away is a bit stupid.
That is daft in his perspective. He, from what I could tell, he felt that he had the right to rule, that the galaxy was his to rule as he wished. Also, why does he ask for the galaxy from Palpatine when he's already got it? Like, what on earth?
I think that was worded really wrong. I think the idea behind what the Emperor was offering him was the fleet, so he could like do what
substantiate his
instead of
rule.
like just ruling the. Yeah, but also like the Emperor ruled the galaxy with an iron fist. Like the First Order is not a threat, and by any means of the imagination after Starkiller was
You say
destroyed.
that
I
in the
think it's
crawl
more-
of The Last Jedi, we see the words "the First Order is days away from taking over the rest of the galaxy," or words to that effect. Like, we get the impression the First Order's won, and we see them like garrisoning like backwater worlds. Like, they have a huge presence everywhere in the galaxy. They are the new hegemon, no doubts there at all.
Because in with the Empire, the Empire had two things. Well, yeah, two things aside from the Emperor, which is sort of the third thing, but two things that were a predominant threat. They had the Death Star and they had Darth Vader. The First Order don't have anything.
What do you mean?
I think the idea was behind.
What do you mean? Where the prominent? How they kept Iron Rule? Simple. They had a lot of troops. They had very good intelligence networks, and you had this idea that
they kidnapped kids.
Yeah.
Which sounds a bit dodgy.
But the First Order doesn't have this. The First Order doesn't have this. It doesn't seem very threatening. I think it was worded horribly from a writing point of view, but I think the idea is that Kylo Ren was to have this so he could rule with the Iron Fist that Palpatine did. I think, and again, it was craply written as a story, and it was worded
Do you know what else
really
was poorly
badly,
written?
But I think
how the fuck is Palpatine still alive?
I'll tell you who I wanted. I wanted someone to be pulling the First Order's strings, and I wanted Snoke to be a puppet. I wanted that quite a lot because it only made sense that way. But
because I wanted
Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah, because that would have been even better. That would have made so much sense. Because that would have wrapped up. That would have wrapped up the end point of that. His arc. But all we need to do is just to fill in the blanks.
Actually, what I would have wanted is Grand Admiral Thrawn not to just be the only person leading, who are behind the scenes manipulating the true First Order.
Let me guess
as well.
Wait, what?
For Ezra Bridger to be with him as well. And the first. Hear me out here. Ezra Bridger has disappeared with Grand Admiral Thrawn to the unknown regions in the chest. Yes. We are getting new books which will be about them, the pair of them. I would have liked it if we had Ezra Bridger and Grand Admiral Thrawn had decided that, because Ezra Bridger's teetered on the edge of the dark side all his life, but the two of them will have decided together that the galaxy needs to be ruled with an iron fist. And then,
which was the thing that Ezra was fighting against.
Not necessarily an iron fist, but in order to keep the galaxy safe, there needs to be more control. Orbonom, I haven't completely put my thoughts together on that, or have completely decided on how it would work.
Right.
But I like the idea that Thrawn, because Thrawn is an eternal pragmatist, he would have appealed to Ezra and said something along the lines of, in order for the galaxy to be safe from the existential threats, which there are, we need order. We need the galaxy to be stable. And
yes, we need a strong and stable galaxy. Didn't know Theresa May was leading this.
Well, you know Grand Admiral Thrawn's ideology, so you know the sort of thing he would say.
I mean, kind of, but I'm not that much of a nerd, so...
I am. Fine. Thrawn is all about the greater good. Thrawn's main things is for the greater good. He does not care for vain glory. He only cares about the betterment of the cosmos.
Right.
I feel that it should have been New Republic and Grand Admiral Thrawn in this trilogy.
Anyway,
I think we should wrap it up. Just a couple more points, and I think we'll wrap it up.
So
overall thoughts.
What have we talked about today? What have we discussed today, boys and girls, here in Balamory? So we discussed that this film is not very good.
Mm-hmm.
We already knew that.
Yeah.
Basically, I think we can all agree that the biggest problem, not only of this film but of this entire trilogy, is that there has been no consequences. That there have been, nothing has changed. It's just the same kind of thing that's happened before again, and that there's just there's no consequences for anything that happens.
I would put this all down to to lazy and bankrupt writing.
And they also went into this with absolutely no idea. They had no plan. They had no real, like... Do you know what? They had no plan going into this. I think J.J. Abrams had a vision of what he wanted to do in his head. But then he was just like, oh yeah, Rian Johnson, let that guy write and direct this. I'm executive producer. I can easily tell him, no, don't do this particular thing. Don't do this particular that. But I won't. I'll just let him do his thing. And oh, wait a minute. What? I have to direct the next film? Oh, fuck. I'm just going to throw Rian Johnson under the bus. And all of his ideas under the bus. And, it's going to be no big deal. It's going to be great.
The biggest issue that I found with this movie was the pacing, obviously.
Oh, God, yeah.
The story a lot of the time just didn't make sense, but it only didn't make sense because J.J. Abrams was trying to rectify some of the mistakes that were in the Last Jedi.
Not even mistakes, things that fans were upset about, and things he didn't want to happen.
It was too much fan service, and Disney is too afraid to be not liked by the fans. Instead of just having it like, this has actually happened. Oh no, we don't. You guys don't like that. We'll rectify it and do something else. And then consequently, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I would prefer it if they left the stuff that people didn't like and just left it and do something else and add to it.
Okay, my overall thoughts. This series has suffered from bankrupt story writing.
Yes.
It has felt too much like an attempt at fan service.
Yeah, very much
an
so.
attempt to sell toys, which it hasn't done, may I add. It has been money grubbing.
Yes.
It has been poorly administrated. It has focused too much on visual effects and not enough on substance.
It's like, oh, we've got practical effects, guys. Come on, and practical effects are great.
I also think that it is got the opposite problem to the prequels. The prequels had too much politics. These don't have enough. They do not. They have gone to the other end of the spectrum here.
And people like the fandom menace or whatever they call themselves. They'll be like, oh yes, fantastic. These films finally have no politics in them. Brilliant. Yes, there's barely any politics. Oh wait, there's identity politics. Blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing.
No. In-universe politics. In-universe politics, I'm talking. I'm not talking external universe politics. I am talking in-universe politics.
Honestly, I think you kind of need to have external universe politics, like even remotely subtly. Sometimes.
Fine.
The remote is fine if it's not shoved in your face. Like the idea, like I said to you before we went in to see it that there was a gay kiss scene in it, and I thought, oh god, it's gonna be shoved right in our face. It's not. It was subtle in the background. I didn't. Now I saw it because I was looking. I
wasn't looking for it. If I'm honest, I was just abysmally taken back by this. Anyway, I reckon as a noted YouTuber said, called Space Doc, this universe does not have enough. This trilogy has not had enough politics.
Yeah, because we don't actually know what the First Order's ideology is. We know they're fascists.
We don't even know that. We know that they're authoritarian and they're militarists. But apart from that, we have no idea. They could be fascists. No. They could be communists. We don't have a clue. They're probably dictatorial.
They kidnap children, but what?
Why? Yeah, what do we know? Like, the Empire we understood to be a corrupt, top-down dictatorship.
Yeah.
A militaristic dictatorship. The First Order, we have no idea. What's more is we have no idea if the First Order have a homeworld, if they have like bases and outposts. We don't even have an idea of the command structure. All we know is that there are a couple of individuals who are in charge. I'll tell you what it's like. It's like two space gangs having a go at each other, and that's it. That's all the information we got. And the problem is that they've lent into so much into an underdog narrative that it's just depressing.
And like massive bits of important stuff. They literally a comic book was released of the week explaining how Kylo Ren fell to the dark side.
I also think that I want this to end Kathleen Kennedy's career.
Yes.
Simple as that. If I'm honest, I'm
What? Sorry.
quite happy for them to walk away from doing anthology films and just do television series for a while, and leave it to Dave Filoni. I want Dave Filoni to have Kennedy's job.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
I also want a focus more to go to Timothy Zahn and his books, because Timothy Zahn knows what the fuck he's doing, and so does Dave Filoni. And if anything, I reckon it should be the two of them running Lucasfilm. Timothy Zahn doing a lot of the writing and also coming up with the stories, because he's a competent writer.
Yeah.
And having Dave Filoni then execute the stories, because Dave Filoni is excellent at coming up with his own stories and then taking the wild machinations of other people and then making them a reality.
Yeah.
So
Commander has said to just wrap it up ourselves and not worry about his opinion, but I was curious to hear what he was going to do.
Yeah, I am as well. Thank you all for watching.
Yes.
And don't go and see this film.
No, because it's very, very bad. Make Disney lose all of their money.
Yes.
Remember, guys,
bankrupt them.
if you like Disney, hail the consumers, hail the product. Don't question the product. Just fall in love with that product.
Yes,
Get
and
Disney your money.
don't buy their toys. Don't buy any merchandise from this film. Let it die, please.
Yes. Thank you for watching. I hate the Star Wars franchise in general.
It has been ruined. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed that video, I definitely enjoyed making it, and like having a debate between us, like what we think and what we agree with and what we disagree with as far as each other's opinions is concerned. Now, you didn't see it in the video because basically what happened in that last like 5-10 minutes, I had to go off and do something, so I stuck my mic on mute and I told RetroGeek to message in a Discord group chat when he had finished, so I can just end the recording and then I can do whatever afterwards. But I'm going to just say now what I think about this movie. Now, I really want to enjoy this movie from start to finish. Now, the majority of it I do quite like. It is a good movie. Now, is it the best thing that's ever created? No. But is it the worst thing that's ever created? No, it's not. There's been such worse things that would come out of Star Wars other than this movie. And the same goes for like The Last Jedi as well, because people hated that movie for some reason. But what I find, and I'm not disagreeing with everything that's come out, what we've discussed, as you saw. Some bits I did agree with, some bits I didn't agree with. But my opinion on this movie is, can I get some enjoyment out of watching this movie? Yes. Will it irritate me as I watch it? Probably. But is it going to irritate me to the point where I just can't sit through this movie? No, it's not. I can watch it to enjoy it. I can watch it as just a story. The story doesn't make a lot of sense. If I watched The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker next to each other, would it all make sense, or would I probably get confused? It probably would confuse me quite a bit, because there's a lot of stuff that doesn't add up and doesn't make sense. It needs to be explained. But as a movie itself, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it. I watched it a second time between us going to see it the first time and recording this audio for the for this review. So, did I expect more from Star Wars? Yes, absolutely. Did I hate this movie? No. But I didn't enjoy it as much as, let's say, the original trilogy or Empire Strikes Back or, the Clone Wars, for example. Those really get me giddy. I could watch it at any time. This is a movie very much the case of, like, if I was doing a Star Wars marathon, I would watch it and I would enjoy it. Or if I was bored on one evening and I wanted just to watch a movie, I would put it on. But I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it, because the stuff that's in it, there's the good stuff in it. It's hard to explain. The good things that are in it that you can visually see outweigh a lot of the bad stuff, like the pacing, the storyline not making sense. But when you actually watch it from a critique point of view, it does start to irritate you. So, anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it. We all enjoyed making it. It's quite funny. And playing Halo Reach in the background was also quite fun as well. So, hope you guys have enjoyed. If you did enjoy, don't forget to smash that like button and hit that subscribe button for more awesome gaming reviews, content, I suppose. And I shall see you all later. Bye!